Hello, this is Rachel for Big Barn Little House. Today I'm going to show you my method for making delicious homemade mac and cheese. Now, I don't follow a recipe, so these are just kind of guidelines, and you can feel free to just kind of add different ingredients that you want and take away different ingredients. You don't have to be religious about this. We're gonna start with these basic ingredients. Now, if you just did these ingredients, this would make you a delicious homemade mac and cheese. I've got pasta, milk, salt, pepper, a couple of cheeses, butter, and flour. This is it, folks. This is it for homemade mac and cheese. But I am also going to add a few extra ingredients to take this to the next level. I've got some of our homegrown smoked ham steaks, some frozen onions and garlic, frozen peas, Parmesan, breadcrumbs, thyme, and some of our dehydrated Swiss chard here from the farm. Again, you do not need to add these ingredients at all. These just make it kind of bougie, as my brother calls it. So here I am starting off with the ham. Now, this ham is already smoked, so technically it's usable and edible as it is, but you can pan fry it. So it just kind of gives us this lovely caramelized flavor and something unexpected in the dish. So here I have my cast iron skillet getting heated. I started off really hot, and at the same time, I'm getting my pot of water going for the pasta. I just add salt to that pasta pot, add some flavor to the pasta. Here to the ham, I am adding just a little bit of olive oil. I have left a lot of that fat on the ham steaks because fat is flavor. If you don't have your own homegrown ham, you can buy your steaks at the grocery store or from a local farm, but know that you can also go to the deli counter at the grocery store and ask them to cut regular old lunch meat ham really thick, so it kind of gives you your ham steaks. You could also use some bacon here. That would be so good. You could use some shredded chicken. You can really use whatever you think would be delicious. Here you can see it's gotten a little bit crispy there on the bottom, and it's the perfect amount of perfect amount of skillet heated for this dish. So I'm using a really big mixing bowl here, putting the pasta in, and then adding those frozen chunks of onion and garlic. I have them frozen because I processed some of my onions and garlic that were going kind of soft, so they're easy and on hand to use. You can certainly use fresh garlic and onions here. I'm adding the peas just frozen to the pasta, and then I am adding the ham, and the heat from the ham and the pasta will thaw out the onions and the garlic just fine. So just put it in here, stir it up, and let it thaw. For my chunks of onions and garlic, it is gonna take it a little time to thaw, so I'm just gonna mix it up here and let it sit while I work on the next step of the recipe. Today for this, I had Gouda on hand, and I always like to use an 8-ounce bar of cream cheese. It just adds this really nice flavor and creaminess to the mac and cheese. You don't need to shred it up, but if you just cut the chunks small enough, they will melt just fine in this pot of white sauce we're gonna make here in a minute. Use any cheese you like. I've used cheddar, I've used mozzarella, I've used Monterey Jack. I've even thrown in some ricotta cheese that I had, and it worked great. This is the same pot I used for the pasta. I didn't even wash it, so I'm going to put a good sized butter in there. Here we are going to make a roux for the white sauce, which makes it nice and thick. Melting the butter here, not too quickly, don't want it too hot, and I added, I don't know, a couple of little handfuls of flour. This is what's going to thicken it. Maybe it was like a 1/4 cup, maybe it was a 1/2 cup. I am not sure. But I know what the consistency should look like of the butter. You whisk up the butter here, make sure there's no lumps of the flour and the butter. If I needed to add more butter, I would have. If I needed to add more flour, I would have. Here, I had a little bit of heavy cream left over from a different recipe. So I put that in here and kind of stirred it up, because the idea is you want to incorporate all that flour and butter and the milk in. Here I am adding some milk. There was some cream on top of that milk, which is gonna be so delicious in this recipe. I don't know, I maybe added a quart here. I definitely just eyeball it. The nice thing about this is if you realize when you mix up your ingredients that you need to make more white sauce, you can. So I am whisking this as it warms up, and eventually it bubbled and it got thick. So that's when you add the cheese and stir it around so it has time to melt and incorporate. And before it's completely melted, I kind of just take it off the heat, because the heat of the sauce will allow it to continue melting. So I'm gonna stir this up a little bit to get that melting process going, and stir it up nicely until it all melts. Now here, after it melts, I added my thyme and my salt and my pepper. I added a little more than I just added enough so I know it would toss into and cover and coat all that pasta and the vegetables and the ham that I have there. Okay, so once that's all melted together nicely, I add it to this big bowl of ingredients that I have. At this point, if you just wanted to do pasta and this white sauce, you could do that, and that would be it. That would be mac and cheese all done. I've added all these other ingredients, and that is what I added there is the dehydrated Swiss chard that we processed last year. I like to mix it all up and make sure everything is coated in that yummy white cheesy sauce. So then I get a prepared baking dish. I covered it in butter so it wouldn't stick. Take some time and pour it all in there. Want to make sure I get every last bit of ingredients in there because it's all so good. And here is my breadcrumb and my Parmesan mixture. I had that Parmesan cheese left over from another recipe. We don't usually have that in the house, but I'm using it here. You do not have to do this last step. You could just mix it up in the bowl and call it a day and serve it like that. But what this does is it's going to brown up that top layer of the mac and cheese so nicely. I put it at 350 for probably about 30 minutes until it was bubbly and nice and brown on the top. So good. There you have it. Bougie mac and cheese.